So we're just finishing off Jacob's story in Bethel. So far we've seen that he comes to this place called Bethel, and this is where God comes and meets him, and he appears to him in a dream. And we're seeing that this dream, God shows him, the plan of salvation. Jacob takes it in, but he understands it, but in part. But what he took from that dream was is what he needed for his time, and then the truth started to unfold to him bit by bit throughout his lifetime. So he had he gained more understanding over a period of time, and then for his present condition, we've seen that God gave him the encouragement, that he gave him that assurance what he wanted, what he was asking for, that is with him, and he will continue to be with him. So let's just look at the response from Jacob, and then we'll move on to the next scene. If we go to Genesis 28, so let's read from verse 18. So this is like after he receives a dream. After he receives a dream, he wakes up, he consecrates the place, and then it says, and Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar, and put oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city was called Luz at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, if God will be with me, and will keep me in this way that I go, and will give me bread to eat and raiment to put on, so that I come again to my father's house in peace, then shall the Lord be my God, and this stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. And of all that thou shalt give me, I will surely give a tenth unto thee. So what Jacob is saying is, he vowed a vow, if God's going to be with me, if he keeps me, if he gives me bread, if he gives me raiment to put on, if he provides, basically, bread and raiment is provision. If God provides for me, if he gives me bread, if he gives me clothes, so that wherever I'm going, and when I return back in peace, then shall the Lord be my God. So he's expecting that this is what he's expecting now, bread and raiment, and he's expecting peace. Then he says, then it's like he's making, it can come across like he's making a bargain with God. Like, if you do this, if you do that, and this, then you shall be my God. It's just the then what makes it sound like a bargain. So he's expecting peace. Basically, he's asking for peace. If I come again to my father's house in peace. So the journey, the time period when he was to return, it was far from peace. The Lord didn't send him no peace. So what he's asking for, he didn't get what he wanted. Basically, it's like he wanted peace and safety. But you can't have peace and safety when there's issues to be resolved. So Jacob's not aware that he has issues that he needs to deal with at this time, but God leads him to that. He doesn't show him what he needs to deal with at this time. It's too much for him. Only when he gets to Jabbok. So he confesses his sin, he repents, but little does he know, he's still got issues. He's still got things in him what needs to be dealt with. So he's not dealing with them at this time. So he continues with his deceitful ways, basically his trickery. What was gonna say now? So so the Esau issue is not really addressed as it is at Jabbok. So basically, Jacob had to learn. Even though he repents, he confesses his sin, he still has to learn from his behavior, and God makes him learn from experience, basically. He has to learn the consequences of sin. He has to learn the damage of what he's done. So we're going to see what he goes through now from here when he goes to Laban's house. So little does he know, it continues to walk in his sin, and I think that's the experience that we all go through anyway. When we come to Christ, some people think they've made it, but no, there's still issues that they have within them, and they continue to walk in those unconscious sins, until the right moment comes where those sins come to surface and it becomes to trouble us. Okay, now so this is the next scene now. So Genesis 29. I kind of want to paraphrase the first few verses, to be honest. So Genesis 29. So verses 1 to 6. We have Jacob setting off on his journey, and he comes to the land of the east. He comes to the place where Laban lives, and it appears at a well, and there's flocks of sheep. There's people there, and Jacob inquires, do you know Laban, the son of Nabal? And then they said, yes, we know him. And verse 6, while he's inquiring about Laban, where he is, do you know him, and so on. He's asking, is he well? How is he? And then that he is well. They respond, and it says, behold, Rachel, his daughter, cometh with the sheep. So this is when Rachel's coming on the scene. So this is where he first meets Rachel, while he's inquiring about Laban at the well. In verse 7, let's read verse 7. And he said, lo, it is yet high day, neither is it time that the cattle should be gathered together. Water ye the sheep, and go feed them. And they said, we cannot until all the flocks be gathered together, until they roll the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. And while yet he spake with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she kept them. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rachel, and lifted up his voice and wept. So this is the first interaction now with Rachel, or a woman that he likes, maybe. So here we have Jacob. It seems like he's kind of directing the people how to do their work, or he's directing regarding the sheep. Is it time that they should drink water or whatever? So we see that Rachel, she keeps the sheep. So we kind of see it. We kind of learn a bit about her, that she looks after the sheep. It seems like that's her job function. And later on we see Jacob Jacob takes part of that job role, because he becomes like a servant, and he becomes a sheepkeeper, the same as Rachel. So verse 12, and Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely thou art my bone and my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month. So now Jacob meets Laban, he meets Rachel, and they all embrace each other. And Jacob then, the Bible mentions Jacob stays there for a month, in the space of a month. So he's there now for a month, working, doing whatever he's doing. And then verse 15 gives us a clue what Jacob was doing. He was working for Laban. He was serving him. So it says, and Laban said unto Jacob, because thou art my brother, shouldest thou therefore serve me for naught? tell me, what shall thy wages be? So Jacob's there working for a month. And remember, he's still expecting the wrath of Esau to calm down. You know, his mom said, when the wrath of Esau calms down, I will come and send for you. I will send for you. So remember, we have that at the back of his mind. You know, what his mom told him. Even though the Bible doesn't mention it afterwards. But still, his mom said, go to Laban's house, find a wife, and when your brother's wrath calms down, I will call for you. So he left with those words, you know, from his mum, but that didn't happen. So verse 16, and Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. So we have 2 daughters now coming to the scene. We have an older and a younger. And now verse 17. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favoured. So if we do a compare and contrast of these 2 daughters, of the older and the younger, what would it tell us about these 2 daughters? If we do a compare and contrast. Remember the rule of compare and contrast. If we look at these 2 daughters and do a compare and contrast, what can it tell us?
One was older, one was younger, one was beautiful and well-favoured, and one was tender-eyed, meaning, I don't know really, was okay or not that beautiful or well-favoured.
So the Bible makes an emphasis on Rachel's beauty, that she's well-favoured, and Leah is tender-eyed. So could it be Leah was not well-favoured as Rachel, or not as beautiful as Rachel, and it describes her as tender-eyed?
I think I read that tender-eyed once was cross-eyed. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so we can see the difference between these 2 daughters, yeah. And Jacob loved Rachel. So within the space of a month, we see that Jacob's love developed for Rachel, and said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rachel, thy younger daughter. So Rachel is the first daughter he met, and maybe because Jacob was serving as well, he's probably serving, you know, we're helping with the cattle, and it appears that this was Rachel's job function as well, because she appeared with all the sheep, with the flocks of sheep. So maybe he must have been working with Rachel, I'm assuming. And maybe this is where the love began to grow, while they was together, maybe. That's just me thinking. And Laban responds and says, okay, that's good. It's better that I give you Rachel than give her to somebody else. So, okay, you've been working for a month. You said what you want. You said you told me your wages, what you want it to be. You said you'll serve 7 years for Rachel. And okay, so abide with me for 7 years, basically. And then at the end of 7 years, you can get Rachel. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed unto him but a few days for the love he had to her. So is that what love does?
Wait 7 years. I don't know why he even said 7 years. I mean, it's a long time. And I mean, love there is very patient.
Yeah, maybe it was kind of a custom or something in those days. Or if he didn't have anything to give, or any dowry or anything like that, probably giving your service was kind of a down payment. And he gave 7 years as a down payment or dowry, or I'll give you I don't have nothing to give. I'm just here empty, probably with just my staff. I've left empty basically. I'm not privileged like my father Abraham and Isaac, where they had something to give. They had inheritance. They had a servant to go out and bring them a wife. Oh, Isaac. I don't have that privilege. I've been kicked out of my house as an outcast. Now I have to by myself go and find a wife. A wife is not coming to me like Isaac. I don't have that privilege, so I'm here empty with nothing. And I've been told to look for a wife. So now I have to work for that. I have to work for what I want, what I've been instructed to go get, and also to fulfill the purpose of God. I need to find a woman in order to do that. So
I wonder what the age difference was between Jacob and Rachel. She must have been quite young. I mean, way younger than maybe even 30 years or something younger than.
You don't know?
Because he was 77, wasn't he? Because, I mean, if she was so beautiful, she should have been, somebody would have come to ask for her hand long time ago. So she must have been still quite young.
No, like her father said, it's better that I give it to you than anybody else. So probably there was other people that maybe wanted her, but they probably wasn't suitable for her, like Jacob.
I think probably she wasn't allowed to get married because Leah wasn't married. If the custom was the older one gets married and she's not beautiful, nobody wants Leah, so they could be quite old.
Yeah.
So Rachel's stuck, and maybe Laban's at the point now where he's saying, well, actually, this man, it's convenient he's here. He wants Rachel, even though he doesn't want to give her, obviously, because he doesn't give her in the end. He wants to marry Leah off. This is the problem, and it seems like he has to deceive someone to marry Leah because nobody wants her. So I think that tenderized, like tender means weak. I think she was weak-eyed, which is not as beautiful for whatever reason.
Yeah, so Jacob should have understood the culture at that time and the customs and traditions to know that, okay, you can't just go straight in and marry the younger daughter. The elder daughter has to be married first. So Jacob maybe should have done his research. Which he fell in love and he probably didn't bother. And because Laban accepted it, he thought, okay, yeah, this is fine then, but not according to custom. So, yeah, sometimes you have to do your research on who you're marrying, sometimes, before you get married.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time. Maybe he did know though, but Laban had agreed here, so he's happy with the arrangement. That's why he's asking him, can I marry him? Can I marry her?
But so it's asking, can I go against the custom and just marry the younger daughter?
Yeah, and Laban agrees, so he thinks he's cut a deal. So we don't know if he knows or not, but I'm saying he could have known. He could have known that was the custom. That's why he's asking and saying, look, what are you going to do for me?
Or maybe because God kind of bypassed his elder brother and came to him. So maybe he thought, this is okay if we bypass the older.
Yeah, true.
So maybe he had that thought in his head. But he should have known why that his elder brother was bypassed, because he didn't fit the criteria. He didn't fit the characteristics of someone to possess the birthright because of his character, his life. He wasn't godly, so he can't, the purpose can't be given to him. But we know that it was I think it's a different story with Leah anyway. Well, we're gonna get there, but we've seen that it appears that Leah is best fitted anyway for Jacob, because even when you look at it, well, we'll get there, but when we look at her children, she gave him the most children. Christ came from the line of Leah. Rachel died.
Yes.
It's like everything with Rachel just failed, but Rachel died, but the line came from Leah, basically. So we'll get there. We'll see what comes up when we get there. So,
Leon, just recap my memory again. Was it Esau that was born first?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, verse 29.
Can we say this is the first time Laban deceives him? Because I don't think he ever had an intention of giving Rachel first.
You could say that, yeah.
I agree.
from the very beginning, but Jacob he's not even aware.
Yeah.
You know, so it works happily for Rachel. You know, it's like a few days, he's 7 years. He's in love, not knowing what's ahead of him. You know, it's like Esau. He's happy for this birthright. He's happy for all these blessings, not knowing what's ahead. You're going to become a servant, you know, which he didn't want. And Jacob is about to get a taste of his own medicine. He's about to get something what he didn't want. So 21. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her, or that I may consummate the marriage, that I may become one, that I may be joined to her now. You know. And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. A feast could be like a banquet, or a feast with drinks and whatever. And it came to pass in the evening that he took his daughter, Leah his daughter, and brought her to him. And he went in unto her. So now, let's look at this verse. We have the banquet, yeah? I mean, we have the feast. We don't know where Rachel is. She's probably not around. She's probably not aware of it. So it's like a private thing, it appears. All the men are gathered together, so it seems like there's no women involved. So it's like a sexist thing, is it? Like, this is just a men's thing. He gathered all the men. You know, Leah's not around, Rachel's not around. And it comes to pass in the evening that he goes and takes Leah, his daughter. So obviously he tells Leah what's gonna happen. Okay, you're gonna marry. I'm gonna deceive Rachel. He thinks he's marrying Rachel, his sister, but no, I'm gonna make you marry him instead. So, you know, prepare yourself and go to Jacob, that he may go into you, that he may have sex with you, basically, and consummate the marriage. So you will be marrying Jacob instead of your sister. And Leah agrees. She consents. She says, okay, I will do that. And then she goes to Jacob, and Jacob goes into her that night. So we don't know what time, we don't know how long they was together, but we know it began in the evening. So and verse 24, and Laban.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
That if he went in unto her, he must have really transferred his feelings onto that woman that he loved, because he thought it was Rachel. And so, and I know even when he woke up in the morning, he saw it was Leah. He must have loved her during the lovemaking.
Yeah. So we'll get there. So hold that point. We'll get there. So, and Laban gave unto his daughter Leah Zipporah, his maid, for a handmaid. So, and it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. So it came to pass in the morning, and behold, oh, this is not the one I married. It was Leah. And he said, Laban, what is this thou hast done unto me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? Wherefore then thou hast beguiled me? And Laban said, it must not be done so in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. So Jacob didn't know. He didn't do his research, because Laban tells him, we don't do this in our country. So Jacob should have understood the country, understood how they do things when it comes to marriage and the firstborn and the younger. You know, so Laban's educating him now. This is not how it's done, but I've deceived you anyway. So Jacob's not happy. He said, you've deceived me. Now I've had a taste of my own medicine, and it's not nice. It doesn't feel good. You know, it feels the pain of deception. You know, it feels what it's like. He still doesn't learn from it. But so he's gone to bed that night thinking, like CJ, like he said, he's making love to Leah, thinking it's Rachel. You know, he's making love. He's got what he wanted now. You know, he says, my days are fulfilled, let me go onto my wife. So now he's got what he wanted. He's becoming one flesh with Rachel in his head. And it's Leah. So he wakes up in the morning. So in the evening till the morning, we don't know how long that was. We don't know when he started to make love. But during that whole process, we don't know if it was a long process, if it was a few minutes, if he falls asleep afterwards after he makes love. You know, is it an hour, is it 2 hours, is it a couple of minutes? He doesn't know that he's making love to Rachel, to Leah basically. And then he discovers, so something happens, he recognizes something in the morning, something different. So does he wake up? Did Leah have a veil over her face? We don't know. But whatever it was, the trick was good. Basically. You know, and marriage is a sacred thing. He's consummating a marriage with somebody else who he doesn't love. And he wakes up to somebody different. And it's like marrying someone and then finding out who they really are after the marriage. You know, and it's a scary thing actually when you don't know each other. You realize after marriage you really don't know each other. You're like, I didn't marry this. This is someone else. Why is it appearing now? Like, why is it appearing different now than before? You know. So Jacob realized at the wrong time. He should have known before. I'm saying. You know. So a night of deception. He spent 7 years working for this moment. Now he's making love to the wrong person. He's being tricked. You know. So let's just think about Rachel. Let's just think about Rachel for a minute. So Rachel, she's not aware of what's going on, I'm assuming. So while Jacob is making love to her sister, she's probably expecting at the end of the 7 years to receive her husband. To receive her man, the man she is courting for these 7 years. And while she has this expectation, her sister's deceived her, gone behind her back, and sleeps with her brother. Sleeps with her partner. She's married him, pretending to be her, and she consummates the marriage behind her back. So Rachel's there waiting for this blessing. Like Esau was waiting for the birthright. He was out preparing, and while he was out preparing, behind his back his own brother was pretending to be him. And it's the same situation with Rachel. Her sister was pretending to be her and took hold of Jacob and married him. And Jacob went in onto her thinking it's Rachel. You know, how would that feel for Rachel? How do you think it felt? You know.
Terrible. Utterly, utterly bereaved or broken.
Yeah, so the Bible doesn't really, well, you know, Moses, he writes this, he doesn't really go into Rachel, how she felt or what was going on. Ellen White doesn't either. But if you just think about it, like, what was she thinking? Like, we know how Esau felt after he found out he was deceived. He was mad. He hated Jacob. He hated him like with passion. He wanted to kill him. And this is why it says later on that Leah was hated. Leah was hated. Rachel hated Leah. Like Jacob, like Esau hated Jacob for what he had done. So Rachel hates Leah for what she had done, because she took part in it. You know. So didn't Rachel know about the custom? Because she was brought up in this custom that the firstborn must marry first. So didn't she know? Couldn't she tell him? If she knew, maybe why didn't she tell him? Or did she tell him and Jacob didn't want to know? Or did she fear that she'll lose a good thing because she's got a man now that she likes? You know, like, this is a good thing. You know, I don't want to lose it, so maybe let me just keep quiet about this custom. Maybe because my dad's agreed to it, maybe it's okay. So let me just not tell Jacob anyway, just in case I may lose him and he marries my sister anyway instead of me. You know,
maybe as well though. There had been some expectation that in that 7 years Leah would find a husband, so they thought it'd be okay. And then by the time the 7 years comes to an end, he's become so part of the family, and they're getting on so well, and it's just such a done deal. They've just accepted that Laban's going to go through with it, even though Leah hasn't got anyone. Just how they were reasoning it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to, because you know, Jacob, you know, when he's getting his birthright, when he wanted his birthright in his early years, it was his constant study day and night. So he studied how to get this birthright day and night. So we know when Jacob wants something, he's determined, and he really studies how to get it. So I'm just wondering, with that mindset, didn't Jacob do any studying, any research?
That's what I mean. You can't believe he didn't know. I just can't believe he didn't know that was the custom. And I just, yeah.
Or maybe sometimes when love comes upon you, you know, it's a different story.
You know what?
Maybe too, but we're learning about the brain. Sorry, learning about the brain, that after 7 years, that love would have worn off a little bit. It wouldn't be quite the same as the first 18 months, 2 years.
I think it would have gone stronger in a probably in a different way, in a more not a less lustful probably, but more
deeper appreciation.
Yeah.
But maybe also in that time he appreciated Leah's character. So maybe they were good friends. Who knows? Maybe they were really good friends.
Yeah.
And everybody just thought, you know what? Like Laban might thought, he'll just get used to it. He likes Leah as well. They get on well. It's like he's become part of the family. It's like a brother to them both, you know. And so then it looks like, and it's customary that you can have more than one wife. So Laban's reasoning all that, and it's totally sexist because he's so destroying Leah and Rachel. But think about Rachel and Leah. Rachel's the beautiful one, has been since birth. Leah's probably felt totally out in the picture from day one, really insecure. You'll never get a husband, you're ugly, you know, all that. So she's got all that baggage, and yet here comes a man who treats her good but treats Rachel good as well because he's nice. I don't know.
And Jacob knows how to please a woman because he pleased his mum in the home. He knew what to do. You know, he was trained. You know, this is why his mum loved him, because he was a houseman. He helped out around the house. He helped his mum. Yeah. And this is what he was like in the home of Laban, you know. And it's funny that he got deceived on something that he could have known.
Yeah.
If he put in the work. And it just shows me, like, before you're married, there's many things you can know if you put in the work about yourself and about the person you're marrying and about their background. If you just put in the work, you could prevent yourself from pain, heartache, and all types of issues, problems, and conflicts.
And you must have been observing, because obviously when somebody's not that beautiful, I wouldn't say ugly because I don't like to use that word. If somebody's not that beautiful, then their character would be a lot more humble, a lot more nice, a lot more compassionate, somebody, because they compensate.
You think?
So you must have seen what's her name? Leah's character.
But
and see,
I'm not sure if that's a true statement. So if you're not as beautiful, that means your character is gonna be a good character.
Well, sometimes it can be the opposite, because because what you don't have in looks, it comes out in your character.
I mean, I don't think not always the case.
No, not always the case, but in a situation like that, where she's being bypassed by guys, then she'd probably have to portray a difference in order to be accepted, in a way. And maybe Jacob did see that in her, I'm sure. Or, I mean, I don't know, it's just an observation, because 7 years is quite a while or he could have just treated his sister-in-law as, oh, she's quite nice, and she's helpful, she's this, she's that. So
Like
there must have been some kind of observation.
like what Emma was saying as well, about the insecurities about your own identity and who you are and your looks. You know, like we've seen like what Jacob did with to Esau, that Leah took on someone else's identity to kind of get what her father wanted. Like Jacob took on Esau's identity to get what he wanted, but also what his mum wanted. So really, we see like father, like mother. No, not like yeah. So like brother, like sister. Laban is a sister of Rebecca. So this deception must have came down from. It must have developed in their home because they're kind of similar in deceiving their own flesh and blood, their own children. That's how deep it gets. They deceive their own children, and
maybe there's a possibility that Sophie's saying in the chat, she agrees with what Cedric's saying. There's a very big stigma on people who society deems as less attractive to at least be kind, funny, or outgoing to make up for their ugliness. It's like in the movies when the fat girl has to be funny to be desirable. And we can really empathise with that because Sophie said that's her experience, or at least that's how she felt her experience was. And it's like, it is really such a big pressure to look good. And even back then, that's why I see this sexism is riddled in this story. And maybe it wasn't even the custom. Maybe it was what some people did, but you didn't have to do that. But Laban said that because he knew that Leah's on the shelf because she's not attractive. And so nobody wants to marry her. And it's like, you just get that impression that for whatever reason, he has to deceive someone to marry Leah.
So think
terrible.
Think of how Leah feels then, right?
Yeah.
She has to do this to get what she wants. She believes, she thinks she has to go down this road to get what she wants because maybe it's just insecure. Rachel's known as the beautiful one, the well-favoured one. That's how people see her. And how do people see me? So you know what, let me just go ahead with what my father directed me to get what we both wanted. So
why does she do it? Why does she agree to it? But I think we've got to put ourselves in her position that in those days it was such a stigma for a woman not to get married. There was no benefits. There was no, you can go out to work. What were you going to do for a livelihood? How are you going to provide? And then on top of that was a stigma to have a child. If you don't have children, barren woman is like a curse. So we don't know how old they are and how long they've waited. But it's just like, you can just see Laban arguing with Leah. Like, I can hear Leah arguing, I'm not going to do that to Rachel, I'm not going to do that, And Laban saying, you'll never get married, you'll never have children, And all that fear drives her to deceive Jacob.
Yeah. So I don't know when this was in preparation, in planning, or I don't know if Laban just told her on the day that, okay, we're gonna do a deception, but
yeah.
We don't know if Leah reasons, okay, after this deception, when he wakes up in the morning and he sees somebody else, what then? And what after? I don't know if she reasons that, if she processes that, because she still goes ahead with it, probably thinking Jacob's just going to accept it anyway, and then I have to face my sister and tell her, yeah, I deceived you. I took the guy you wanted, and now he's mine.
Well, maybe Laban said to her as well, he's not going to get rid of you, because this is the argument Laban uses afterwards, is that, is that it would be a stigma on her and the whole family if you put her away now, so you've got to keep her. Maybe he even said that to Leah, even if he doesn't want it, he's not going to throw you out because it's a stigma on the whole family, and he's not going to do that to us. They took advantage of what he knew Jacob's character was like.
Yeah. So we're coming to a close now. But we see the family dynamics, how it's dysfunctional like Jacob's family. So we have Jacob's mother, she kind of manipulates him to do this deception. So she's a deceiver herself. She lies. She deceives her husband, her own child, Esau, and manipulates Jacob. Now we see something similar with Leah's father. He's willing to deceive Jacob, making him work all those years, messing with his feelings, trampling upon his feelings, even the feelings of his daughter Rachel, and deceives Rachel and puts Leah in this situation. So it's kind of the same, similar to his sister. The dynamics are very similar. We see affections being messed with, we see people being deceived. So we see Leah going so low and desperate just to get married. And I think it's the same situation where something was promised to Jacob, but Jacob had to go so low to get what he wanted, not trusting in God, but going in his own strength, fearing that I can't get what I want, And Esau's got what he wants. In Leah, I think maybe it's the same situation with Leah, where she had to wait on God. That's if she was worshipping God, we don't know, but she had to wait on God to get what she wanted. God provided what she needed, and we see that Leah was blessed anyway further down in the story. So Leah was not forgotten in this situation. So when we come back again, we're going to compare the two stories of Jacob deceiving Esau and Leah receiving Rachel and Laban as well. So we're going to compare the two stories, and we're going to bring them together, and we're going to see how similar it is, how similar the deception is, or more or less the same. So Jacob receives a taste of his own medicine, and the deception what Jacob receives is so similar to the deception what he done with Isaac.
Dear Father in heaven, we thank you for this study. We thank you that through your word you're showing us the complexity of human relationships, and we pray that as we reflect on this story we'll see our own lives in a clearer light, how we have perhaps false concepts of ourselves, perhaps we have damaged images and anxiety over who we are, and perhaps we've deceived others in many ways, how we behave in our actions. And we pray that you would unmask that deception to us, that you would show us who we really are and how much we need you, how much we can rely upon you and trust in you for our identity, for our direction, for our comfort and our strength, and that you would restore in us your image. We recognize that many times we failed you in the way we treat one another, that we have not had empathy one for another, and that we have not loved one another as you love us. Please help us, Lord, to see where we can love our brother, how to do that, how to serve you today. And we pray that your Holy Spirit would be our guide and our teacher through this day. Please bless us and keep us now, we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.